Well, it's that time again. I finally finished up my all my homework, and now it's time to go ahead and film the newest episode of The Lab with my favorite shirt from high school. I'm hard to kidnap. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a good day. I think it's gonna be a good day overall. Let's get going.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. Welcome to The Lab, the series where I test off-meta strategies in some of your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Formats. Today, and in our format, we're playing TEARLAMENT LIGHTSWORN Despia. Here's the list, and whoa, that's a whole lot of cards. This is a pile deck, so let's cut to the chase. LIGHTSWORN is an archetype of monsters whose main gimmick is milling the top card of your deck at the end of the turn. This effect is normally really slow for the fast pace of Constructed, but in our format, this deck might just be at a fast enough pace to make it worthwhile. Combined with the Despians and the Tearlaments, this deck might just have enough legs to get off what it wants to do without bricking on wolves. Starting with the LIGHTSWORNs, we have 3 copies of Raikou. He's just a decent destruction effect, but unfortunately, his flip effect being activated during the damage step prevents most of your effects from triggering. If you're able to flip it off yourself, you still get the effects, but not if you're getting attacked into him, which is the most important time where you want to set Raikou. He still loads up the grave, so you want to keep him in at 3. 3 copies of Shire. She gains more attack for each LIGHTSWORN monster with different names in the grave, and mills 2 at the end phase. 2 copies of Minerva. Her first effect's only target in this deck is a copy of Light Pulsar Dragon, but she can send another card off the top if she's milled, so it's still worth keeping around. Mills 2 at the end phase as well. 3 copies of Jane. She's not the best, but she mills 2, and a 2100 attacker at times makes for a decent beater. Really wish she kept it when she was attacked, though. 3 copies of Wolf, the Hard Brick. A free special summon when milled is really good, but the chance to draw it makes it a dead card. It's best to use it for fusion summoning when you draw it. 2 copies of Felis, LIGHTSWORN Archer. A free special summon when milled is also really good for her. She's just another wolf, basically, with the effect to tribute herself to destroy another monster your opponent controls and mill another 3. And for the base LIGHTSWORNs, we also are including 2 copies of Realm of Light. You gain more attack the more LIGHTSWORNs you mill, but it's not great. But it does provide some advantage for all the dead LIGHTSWORN mills you're giving, but it's probably the most cuttable card in the deck. There are some synergies we'll get to later with a monster that requires field spells, so that's why we're running it still. Alongside the LIGHTSWORN is the Twilight Sworn. These are dark versions of the LIGHTSWORN monsters that are much worse. These cards help with the chaos energy of the deck, but we're only running 2, Raikou and Jane. Raikou, when normal or flipped, banishes a LIGHTSWORN in grave or hand and banishes 1 monster on the field. And Jane can banish a LIGHTSWORN monster from hand or grave, target a monster your opponent controls, and it loses attack and defense equal to the banished monster's level times 300. They both gain effects to mill more cards when another LIGHTSWORN monster activates effects. Whether it be milling or active effects, it doesn't matter, they will mill all the same. Next up, the Despians. 3 copies of Comedy. This card has effects for your fusion summon monsters. When a Despian monster is targeted with a card effect, you can pitch this card from hand to negate it. Also, if it's in your graveyard, you can tribute a fusion monster to special summon it. You're rarely wanting to do that, but it's still a solid effect when necessary to dodge targeting. 3 copies of Tragedy. If sent to grave by card effect, you can add a Despian monster from deck except itself, making it a great searcher for Comedy. You can also banish it to set any branded spells that are in your graveyard. Only 1 effect each turn. 1 copy of Ad Libitum. Because you aren't really fusion summoning and setting it to grave or banishing, it's only a 1-of in the deck, and you're rarely using its first effect to gain 100 times a monster's own level. If I was smart, I'd be running more Branded in red in replacement of him and the 2 Realms of Light, but it's sometimes too bricky when you can't find any millers anyway. Speaking of spells, 3 copies of Despia, Theater of the Branded. The ability to fuse any monster except for Caliga via the field spell makes it some great advantages over using just Poly. Mostly, its synergy with the branded cards gives it the ability to be reset on the field via Tragedy, and its second effect to reborn any level 8 or higher fusion monster when you're stuck on other Despian monsters give it some neat utility to make it worthwhile, even if it's hard countered by destruction effects. And 3 copies of Branded Opening. Pitching for effect is fantastic for both Tragedy and the tier cards, and the destruction protection for fusion monsters when milled is just mwah, chef's kiss. Next, the tiers. 3 copies of Merly and 3 copies of Havness. Both of these cards have the second effect to fusion summon when sent to grave via card effect by returning monsters in your hand, field, or graveyard back to the deck. Merly mills 3 when normal or special summon, and Havness mills when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field by special summoning herself out. These cards are your bread and butter, and the main reason for playing them with the LIGHTSWORNs. For the spells, 3 copies of Grief and Heartbeat. You are never using their mill effects. Instead, you're using them for their activatable effects. Grief lets you special summon 1 tier monster from your deck or graveyard, then send 1 monster with the same type and or attribute from field to grave. You can choose to target the monster you just special summoned if you're looking to fusion summon, but typically you want a mill effect from the Merly you special summon. Also, 3 copies of Heartbeat. You can target 1 spell trap on the field, shuffle into the deck, then send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. This is excellent for pitching and great back row removal. And now for the odd ones out. 3 copies of the Light Hex Sealed Fusion. This card is basically 3 copies of Alistair the Invoker for the fusion summon of Caliga and Ogduius. Ogodius? Ogodius. We'll go with Ogodius. It can also be used for Ida10 or Shura, but it's mostly used for those 2. You can fusion summon with it for a light monster, but it requires the material to be on field. 3 copies of Guiltia. He's your level 5 or higher warrior for Ida10 and Shura, and also a removal effect on normal summon. You can also summon him without tributes if you have no monsters in the field. You're never using the second effect in this deck, so don't even worry about it. And the Chaos cards. 1 copy of Light Pulsar Dragon and 1 copy of Chaos Daedalus. Light Pulsar can banish a light and a dark from the grave if in the hand, or a light and dark from the hand if in the grave. It's a good monster when milled for this reason. Daedalus is best used when you combine with a field spell, and if your opponent is running 1, it's actually to your advantage. Your opponent can't target light or dark monsters you control while a field spell is up, and you can banish cards in the field up to the number of field spells on the field. Field. 2600 attack is nothing to sneeze at either. Finally, our only trap is 3 copies of Eternal Chaos. You can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, send 1 light and 1 dark from your deck to the grave, whose combined attack is less than or equal to the monster targeted. Unfortunately, this locks you into only 1 more monster effect in the graveyard, but your best 2 targets are Merly and Raikou for instant fusion summon on your opponent's turn. Speaking of fusions, we're going to the extra deck. 1 Invoked Caliga. It requires Alistair and a dark monster. It's a funny floodgate that only lets either player activate 1 monster effect and battle with 1 monster each turn. Annoying, but very easy to crush over. 1 copy of Invoked Ogodius. Requires Alistair and a fusion monster. You're only able to summon it with Hex Sealed and a fusion on the field, but it's still worth playing just in case. On a hard once per turn, if it's special summoned, or if your opponent special summons a monster, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy it. Also, you can banish a fusion from your graveyard, and it gains that card's attack until the end of your opponent's turn. 3 Despian Proskinian. It's your best fusion summon by far. It requires a light, a dark, and a Despia, but with the tier cards being the dark monster, you're only going to need the Despia and any of the LIGHTSWORNs in grave you're already milling plenty of. During the main phase, you can quick effect, reborn, or banish any extra deck card in your opponent's graveyard. What the fuck? Also, if it destroys a monster by battle, your opponent takes damage equal to either the attack or defense of the monster it destroys, whichever is higher. With 3200 attack and defense, this card is busted. Combined with the protection from Comedy and Branded Opening, this card can win games on its own. 2 Ida10 and 1 Shura. These monsters are very rarely able to be summoned, but when they are houses all on their own. Ida10 can, when fusion summoned, add any level 5 or warrior monster from your deck to your hand, and can pick cards for cost to gain more attack, and once per battle, make any monster's attack with an equal or lower level than 10, 0. Sure, it requires Ida10, but with the Hex Sealed Fusion, you can opt to fusion summon it with just the branded field spell. Once per turn during the battle phase, Sure can make all monsters your opponent controls attacks 0. Once per battle, if a monster battles another monster, each monster gains attack equal to their level during damage calc. And if it's destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to grave, you can just fusion summon Ida10 for free. It's just nuts what these cards do. That's it for the fusions. Because we have a couple of tuners in Fellis and Minerva, we're also on some synchros that we barely go into. 1 Balmog, 1 Gravity Warrior, 1 Hyper Psychic Riser, 1 Ancient Sacred Wyvern, 1 Parshath, 1 Chaos Goddess, and 1 Judgment, the Dragon of Heaven. With all that being said, let's get into the duels and banish a light and a dark. But first, if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more NR format content. Are there any other NR format decks I should try? Let me know in the comments below. Our first match is up against Umi Control, and our hand is alright. Our turn 1 play is pretty much just set Raikou pass, but we can pretty much beat anything with that at this rate. Our opponent is playing Umi Control, and they opened a decent opener. Newman Erat Tetsudo is an interesting card, especially that works with a Legendary Ocean, especially if you end up grabbing that card. Being able to normal summon it out and floodgate monsters with 1800 or less attack is pretty strong, but anything that beats over it isn't... it doesn't make it as good. We're going first. We're going to go ahead and set Raikou, set Eternal Chaos, and pass the turn. Opponent draws for turn, and that's an alright one. They're going to activate a Legendary Ocean and normal summon out Newman Erat Tetsudo, set 3, and go to the battle phase. Going to hit our Raikou. Our Raikou is going to activate its effect, hitting over the Newman, and we're going to mill 3, and wait a minute. We dumped Merly. Oh, that's right. Except during the damage step. Our opponent's going to pass here. We're going to go ahead and draw for turn, and oh, Jane's alright. We're going to normal summon out Jane, Lightsword Paladin. We're going to get in for 1800, and they're going to activate Sea Stealth attack for no effect. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and pass here. We're going to activate Jane's effect, mandatory cost, to bring out 2 Twilight-Sworn Janes, which is, you know, good for the Chaos element of this deck. Our opponent sets 1 and passes. They're going to go ahead and, on the draw step, hit the Paleozoic Illinoids on the Eternal Chaos. We're going to go to main phase 1. We're going to activate the effect of Raikou Twilight-Sworn Fallen and banish ourselves the copy of Sea Stealth attack. We're going to go to the battle phase, hit for 2k, and we're going to go ahead and pass the turn from here. Jane is going to activate her effect. We're going to activate Raikou's effect alongside it, milling 3 more, and branded opening is pretty good. We're going to have the effect to do something with the Despian Tragedy later, especially if we can go ahead and get that branded opening in the from the grave to our hand at any point. Our opponent's going to activate Paleozoic Dynamicious, going to target the Jane, activating Oleanoids, and they're going to be pitching off the Dynamicious this copy of Moray of Greed. They're going to bring out the Oleanoids on go to the battle phase, hit over Raikou, and they're going to pass the turn. We draw for turn here, and oh, that's actually pretty decent. We're going to go ahead and send to the graveyard the Light Hex Sealed Fusion and Despian Tragedy to bring out our Light Pulsar Dragon. Our Despian Tragedy's effect is going to activate, grabbing back and setting down the branded opening. We're going to normal summon out Shire, Lightsworn Spirit, hitting over the Oleanoids, and Light Pulsar Dragon is going to hit into there. We're going to send 2 and pass the turn. They draw for turn, and ooh, Amphibious Bugroth Mark II is going to destroy our Light Pulsar Dragon. They're going to beat over our Shire, and we're going to go ahead and go to the end phase. At the end phase, we're going to activate Branded Opening, pitching off the Merly, bring out the Ad Libitum. With Merly's effect, we're able to use the Ad Libitum that we just brought out, the Merly, and a Giltia, D-Knight Soul Spear, into our Rebellion boss monster, Despian Proskinian. We're going to draw for turn here, and another Shire is pretty good. We're going to go ahead and normal summon out Shire, hit over with the Proskinian. We're going to activate Despian Proskinian. They're going to activate Torrential Reborn, bringing back the monster and inflict 500 to us. But unfortunately for them, Proskinian's effect still is going to activate since it was sent to the graveyard, bursting them for 1850. So this replay really shows what this deck really shines at. In a long grind game with the ability to play fairly with our opponent and bring ourselves back to the old days of Lightsworn, this deck can really start to accumulate a lot of advantage in the graveyard and get its chaos strategy going. Our second match is up against Vampire, and our hand's okay. We have some chainables with Havness, and they have a pretty decent hand, but we don't have any great normal summon on turn 1. We're going to just normal summon out Jane, Lightsworn Paladin, and pass. Jane effect is going to pitch off 2, and that's fine. Minerva's effect is going to activate, setting out another Jane. Setting our graveyard up is one of the most important parts of this deck, so I'm fine with that. They're going to set 2 and pass the turn, and oh, that seems like it's going to be a pretty good one. We're just going to go for battle here. Going to go ahead and Jane into the retainer. No effect is going to be activated at the end except for Jane's effect going to pitch off, and we hit the Merly! Woo, baby! Let's go Casino. By the way, we also set a copy of the Light Hex Sealed Fusion just in case they have any sort of effects they want to go ahead and use for this turn, and it's probably our best card that we can set right now. We can probably pitch off Despian Tragedy later on, or fuse it off later for a copy of Despian Proskinian. We're going to go ahead and go for that with Ad Libitum. We're going to go ahead and fusion summon with Merly, Minerva, and the Ad Libitum into Despian Proskinian, making sure we're not in the Geonator Transverser Zone. They're going to activate a copy of Vampire Retainer, sending Vampire Red Baron. And Vampire Red Baron, I read this card and realize how scary it could be. Once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points, target a monster your opponent controls, and one of the vampire monsters you control. Switch control of those monsters. We have a 3,200 monster. I'm a little bit scared. They're going to activate Vampire Retainer. We're going to chain Havness. They're going to activate Vampire Takeover in response to Havness's effect. Vampire Takeover and vampires in general have a weird counter activity and sort of a built-in way to deal with all of the mills you could do with both the LIGHTSWORNs and the tier elements. We're going to go ahead and bring out Havness, mill 3, Feel Great, and they're going to Vampire Retainer, add a copy of Vampire's Domain. They're going to activate Vampire Kingdom, pitching, destroying our Jane. We're going to Despian Tragedy, adding a Despian monster from deck to hand. We're going to add a copy of Despian Comedy. Luckily here, if they had activated the effect of Vampire Kingdom targeted our Despian Proskinian beforehand, we couldn't activate the effect of Despian Comedy to chain it. So they're going to be able to go ahead and pitch off the Jane. Luckily they didn't do that. They're going to go ahead and send off the copy of Vampire Grace, bring out a Familiar, adding a Vampire monster, going to add a copy of Ghost to hand. They're going to activate a copy of Vampire's Domain, going to do a tribute summon of Vampire Scarlet Scout, taking 1,000, bring out the Grace, and they're going to XC summon with Red Baron and Grace into Pilgrim Reaper. That's right, baby. We're going into the casino in many different ways. Even our opponent is helping us out. You're going to activate a copy of Pilgrim Reaper, wanting to go ahead and send more vampires into the grave. We're going to activate a copy of Merly here. Merly effect is going to fuse off with the Light Hex Sealed Fusion into a copy of Invoked Caliga. Invoke Caliga's effect states each player can attempt to activate one monster effect per turn. Each player can only attack with one monster during each battle phase. They're going to go into this Vampire Scarlet Scout because they have to. They're going to Pilgrim Reaper into the Light Hex Sealed Fusion. They're going to Vampire Scarlet Scout, bringing back the Invoke Caliga that we brought on our turn. That's quite unfortunate. They're going to Vampire's Domain, get a second normal summon. They're going to XE someone with both retainers into a copy of Mannequin Cat. They're going to pass the turn here, and any form of special summon basically brings out whatever monster they could want. We're going to activate a copy of Grief, targeting Havness, pitching Merly, bringing out Merly. Havness effect is going to then use the fusion summon, and Mannequin Cat is going to activate, targeting the Merly. Now, right now, they can only activate the Mannequin Cat effect, bringing themselves out a copy of Vampire Vamp. We're going to fusion summon using Wolf, as well as a Despian and the Merly into Despian Proskinian. Another copy. We're going to go into the battle phase, hit over Caliga, and we're going to Proskinian go into the Mannequin Cat. We feel like that we'd be fine with Pilgrim Reapers activating its effect because we get more value off it than the Vampire player does, especially because our deck is so large. We're going to activate Proskinian's effect and make them take 2k. We're going to Despian Proskinian, target the Mannequin Cat, and bring it back to our side of the field. Now, anytime they special summon, we can bring out any dark monster we could desire. They're going to activate Vampire Vamp, targeting Proskinian, and they're going to Vampire Ghost, chain blocking it from our comedy. This is disastrous here. They're going to be able to pitch with Vampire Ghost, add a level 4 or higher Vampire from deck to hand, and if they do, send a level 2 or lower Vampire monster from deck to the grave. Then they're going to grab the Vamp and boost it up to 5,200. Taking our Proskinian is devastating, but luckily, because of Vampire Vamp's effect, you can target one monster your opponent controls whose attack is higher than this card's equipped to this card, meaning they can't take our second Proskinian. They're going to activate a copy of Vampire's Domain, normal summon out Vampire Red Baron, and then go into Code Talker. We're going to activate Mannequin Cat here, targeting the Code Talker, bringing back the Caliga, making it so they can only activate one monster effect left per turn. We mill here, and we could go for Merly, and they're going to activate a copy of Vampire Kingdom, but we opt to go for the Fellas LIGHTSWORN Archer instead. The reason being that we can take this card, and on our turn, be able to tribute it to target a monster we control, and then send more. They're going to have to go into the Caliga. They're going to go in with Pilgrim Reaper into our Proskinian, and they're going to Vampire Vamp into our Mannequin Cat. They're going to heal for 3,700, and at this point, I feel like this might be the end of the turn. They're going to, with the effect of Vampire Red Baron, bring back the Invoke Caliga on their turn, and, well, we're going to have to go ahead and do a bit of work. We're going to activate our copy of Fellas, destroying the copy of Invoke Caliga, pitching 3. Vampire Kingdom is going to destroy the Merly because it's mandatory. They could choose to target one other card that they control on the field, but this was their biggest mistake, I think, so far. We're going to Merly here, going to fusion summon with the Despian Proskinian into another Despian Proskinian, as well as the the other card there. We're going to bring back our copy, their copy of Mannequin Cat, go to the battle phase, hit over Vampire Red Baron, one of the scariest cards they have. We're going to Vampire Red Baron, we're going to Despian Priscinian into the Vampire Red Baron, hit over the Code Talker, and in the main phase 2, set one copy of Tragedy and pass the turn. They draw for turn, and that's a pretty good one. They're going to activate a copy of Vampire's Domain. They're going to activate Vampire Familiar, taking care of the domain for us. They're going to Vampire Familiar effect. We are going to chain with Mannequin Cat, targeting the Pilgrim Reaper. Being able to bring out another dark monster that we want, we're going to choose to bring out Merly, not only because we can mill more cards, but also because the battle effect has been at a constant standstill for us at this point as well. Every time we bring out the Caliga, they're able to bring it right on back with any of the vampire monsters in hand, or on the graveyard. They currently have 12 cards in deck, meaning that they are very low. We still have 38, so we're going to win this mill game no matter what they decide to do. They bring out a copy of Shadow Vampire. We're going to activate the card of Merly, pitching 3, and nothing really hit except for the branded opening, which is fantastic. They're going to destroy the Mannequin Cat. They're going to tribute summon out Shadow Vampire, and this is their biggest mistake yet. When this card is normal summoned, you get special summon one dark vampire monster from your hand or deck, except for Shadow Vampire. But monsters you control cannot attack for the rest of this turn except that special summon monster. They don't read this. And we chain Havness! Havness is going to pitch out 3. Bring out another Havness! They're going to bring out the Vampire Ghost. Havness effect. We're bringing back 3, baby. We're bringing back the Despian Comedy. We're bringing back the Hex Sealed Fusion. We're bringing back Havness. We're bringing out the Despian Priscinian. They're going to link summon the 2 copies into a copy of Geonator Transverser. They still have not normal summoned. They use their normal summon. They activate summon Samurai Skull's effect, pitching out the Samurai Skull, and they activate Geonator Transverser. I think that this might be a funny time to activate the effect of Despian Comedy, baby, tributing off that targeted Despian Priscinian, causing the Trionator Transverser to fail its effect. Now we're going to activate at the end of the main phase. Despian Priscinian is going to banish off the Mannequin Cat. They go into the battle phase and realize that Shadow Vampire's effect has locked them out of the game. They're going to pass the turn. We draw for turn, and we're just going to go straight to the battle phase, hit over the Geonator Transverser, and win from here. This game took like 40 minutes real time and 9 minutes in recording. Our third match is up against Blackwing Tri-Brigade, and, this hand doesn't do a whole lot, and their hand is crazy. We lost the coin flip, so they're going to be going first. They're going to go ahead and activate the effect of Tri-Brigade Fractal, pitching Kit. Kit, of course, is going to be sending Nerval, and Nerval effect is going to add Chaos. Fractal to hand. Interesting. That's because they already have the Chaos in hand. Pitching off the Haratama, activating their effect, and banishing 3, all the Tri-Brigade monsters for Haralvsgar. Whatever. I don't even know how to pronounce this card's name. Blizzard the Far North is going to be normal summoned, activating its effect, bringing out the Haramatanda Dust. They're going to special summon out Chris, the Crack of Dawn, for Evil Swarm Nightmare, putting it in defense position. Going to be Xe summoning with Karos and Blizzard, bringing out Mannequin Cat. Going to be putting it right in between and passing the turn. We draw for turn, and Havness is pretty good here. We're going to activate Realm of Light, going to be normal summoning out Jane, Lightsworn Paladin, and hitting over Mannequin Cat for 100 over. At the end of the phase, we're going to go ahead and mill with Jane's effect, and we're hoping that they're going to activate any effect for cost. We're going to TEARLAMENT Merly, and they're going to activate the effect of Haralvsgar Doom Eagle. We're going to chain Havness! Yippee! Havness effect is going to be special summoning itself out, milling the top 3 of the deck, bring out more Lightsworn monsters, and they're going to go ahead and stop the fusion summon. Unfortunately, Haralvsgar is big on countering Despia's. At the end phase, we're going to be activating Minerva's effect as well, pitching 1 more. They're going to go and draw for turn, and it's a pretty good one. They're going to go ahead and Fractal here, sending off 3, going into the Tri-Brigade Rugal. They're going to Haralvsgar into the Jane. They're going to Fractal into my Havness, and Rugal into my face. We don't have too much we can really do here for right now with this hand. They're going to activate Fractal's effects, pitch Nerval on the field. Bring out Fractal. Haralvsgar is going to pitch back in the Jane, and we're going to draw for turn. That is not going to be that great. We're going to activate Jane, Twilight Sworn General's effect, pitching off the Wolf in hand to lower the Haralvsgar lower. They're going to activate Tri-Brigade Rugal in main phase. They're going to go ahead and shuffle on back our copy of Raikou. We're going to hit over it, and this is pretty much the end of the game from this point. They have enough card advantage, they have enough hand loops, and they have everything they want and more. They're going to Fractal, normal summon out, special summon out, so a copy of Firefighting Daruma, hit in with Rugal, hit in with Fractal, hit in with Daruma. We need a miracle here if we're going to go ahead and last any bit longer. We draw for turn, and another Jane is fine. We're going to Jane here, going to battle over the Rugal, hit right over it for 100. They're going to Rugal effect, but it's not going to matter too much. And we're going to pass the turn. Jane's going to go ahead and mill 2, and oh, well, there's nothing we can hit there. If we hit a tier name, we could have maybe been able to do something, but unfortunately, Heartbeat is mostly used for its pitch effect, if anything. They're going to draw for turn. They're going to activate the effect of Fractal, pitch Nerval, Nerval effect, add Karos, and then from here, they're going to Karos effect, pitch themselves the Pinaki. They're going to activate Karos's effect, sending 3, bringing out another Rugal, normal summon out Blizzard, Blizzard effect, add Pinaki. They're going to go to the battle phase, hit in with Rugal, and hit in for Daruma for game. This match really shows you what is the biggest problem against this deck. Any flavor of Tri-Brigade really causes this deck to have major issues, especially because they can shuffle back any of the fusion summon monsters with the tier elements. It's still going to be too much for us to deal with. So those are the games, and this deck really makes you feel like you're losing money in Vegas. The pros of this deck. 1. Its high roll is so high. A 3200 attack and defense monster with burn damage, protection, and the ability to reborn or banish your opponent's extra deck monsters in the grave is a threatening boss monster. 2. With the number of millers in the LIGHTSWORN cards, you're guaranteed almost every single turn to at least put out something to start milling. And 3. Havness and Merly are just too good not to build around their effects. The potent power creep is real, and the advantage you gain from playing them are too good to pass up. And the cons. 1. Consistency isn't this deck's strong suit. We have a 60-card pile deck with no grass. We also have 5 hard bricks you never want to see in your hand, but always want to see when milled. 2. If you want to play LIGHTSWORN, this is the best shot you've got. If you want to play Despia or Tier, this is not it. The only good LIGHTSWORN card we're running is maybe Wolf, and you don't even want him in hand. And 3. With the deck's only goal to mill cards, you're missing out on staple removal traps like Torrential in more consistent decks. Some hands are just normal summon 1 LIGHTSWORN, mill 2, whiff, and pass. All in all, this is probably the only deck you could justify running 60 cards in, but buying more spins in the slot machine just makes you an addict, not a winner. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Related content. Also, thank you to MBT Yu-Gi-Oh! For the formula of this series. His 10-minute testing for the TCG is the kind of content that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Space needs more of, and I hope that my spin for alt formats does it justice. My name is Doc Conrad, Yugioh, and I hope to see you back in the lab.